The unexpected reunion. Lieutenant Jake Morrison wiped the dust from his uniform as he crossed the main plaza of Mars Colony 7, the red desert stretching endlessly beyond the dome's transparent walls. 3 months stationed here and he still wasn't used to the thin atmosphere. The way sound seemed to die faster than it should. His comm device chirped. "Morrison, report to Command Level 3 immediately," the dispatcher said. "New liaison officer wants to see you." "Copy that," Jake replied, already changing direction toward the central tower. He'd heard rumors about the new Zalarian commander, someone high-ranking, someone important to the peace accords. The Zalarians had only joined the coalition 2 years ago, their purple-skinned delegates still a rare sight on human colonies. When Jake reached the office door, 2 Zalarian guards stood watch, their dark eyes tracking his approach without blinking. "Lieutenant Morrison," one said in accented English, "you may enter." The door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the office was sparse but elegant, decorated with both human and Zalarian artifacts. A figure stood by the window, silhouetted against the Martian sunset, long dark hair falling past her shoulders. "Lieutenant Morrison reporting as ordered," Jake said, snapping to attention. The figure turned slowly. Jake's breath caught in his throat. She was stunning. Purple skin that seemed to shimmer in the fading light. Dark eyes that held both intelligence and intensity. Features that were distinctly Zalarian, yet somehow familiar. She wore a crisp command uniform with medals he didn't recognize. But it wasn't her appearance that froze him. It was the way she was looking at him. "Hello, Jake," she said softly. His mind raced. That voice, something about it triggered a memory he'd buried under years of training and deployment. "Do you remember me?" she asked, taking a step closer. His thoughts tumbled backward. 15 years ago, the Terra Zalarian Peace Summit, the children's cultural exchange program his mother had forced him to attend. He was 12, bored out of his mind, until he'd found a small purple-skinned girl crying behind the exhibition hall. She'd scraped her knee falling off a climbing structure, and the other kids had been laughing at her. He'd helped her up, bandaged her knee with supplies from a first aid kit, and made stupid jokes until she stopped crying. He remembered her saying the other children thought she was too aggressive, too difficult. He told her, "If you grow up strong and fierce, and no Zalarian guy can handle you, then I will." She'd stopped crying then, her eyes going wide. "Oh," Jake breathed, reality crashing into him. "Oh no, that was you, Zara?" Commander Zara stepped closer, her expression unreadable. "You remember." "I was 12, Jake said quickly. "I was trying to cheer you up. I didn't mean—" "You made a promise," Zara interrupted, her voice steady. "Under Zalarian law, a promise made to a child about their future bond is considered sacred, especially when both parties remember it clearly." Jake felt his stomach drop. "Commander, with all due respect, I was a kid. Kids say things and I was a child who built her entire life around those words. I learned your language, your customs, your military traditions. I joined the Zalarian Defense Force and requested this posting specifically. I did everything necessary to become worthy of you." The weight of her words settled over him, like gravity. "Zara," he started, then corrected himself. "Commander, you can't possibly think—" "My name is Zara when we are alone," she said, her eyes never leaving his. "And I do not think, Jake, I know. The bond was registered with both governments 3 days ago. My council recognizes it. Your superiors have been informed." "What? How is that even—" "Your childhood promise, combined with my formal claim and your failure to officially reject it within the designated period has made this binding. Rejecting it now would be seen as a human officer breaking a sacred vow. It would damage the alliance, possibly irreparably." "This is insane," Jake muttered. "This is law. Zalarian law, which our government agreed to honor as part of the peace accords." She moved even closer, close enough that he could see the faint pattern of scales along her neck, close enough to smell something like cinnamon and ozone. "I am not asking you to love me immediately. I am asking you to honor what you promised, to give this bond a chance. I helped you once when you needed it most. Now I need you to trust me." Jake stared at her, this woman who'd shaped her entire existence around words he'd spoken as a boy. "And if I refuse?" he asked. Her expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes, hurt, maybe resignation. "Then you refuse," she said simply. "But the political consequences will be severe, and the extremists on both sides who want this alliance to fail will use your rejection as proof that humans cannot be trusted." Before Jake could respond, alarms shrieked through the colony.
The political trap. Red emergency lights strobed across Zara's office as the alarm wailed through the colony. Zara's hand flew to her wrist communicator. "Commander Zara, perimeter breach in Sector 5, a voice crackled through. "Multiple hostiles, Zalarian signatures." Zara's eyes met Jake's. "You are with me." "I'm not officially," Jake started. "You are officially my bonded," Zara cut him off, already moving toward the door. "That means you have clearance to follow me into any situation. Now move." Jake grabbed his sidearm from his belt and followed her into the corridor. The two Zalarian guards fell into formation behind them. "What's in Sector 5?" Jake asked, matching her quick pace. "Hydroponics bay, life support backup systems, and the communications array. If someone wanted to cripple the colony without destroying it completely, that would be the target." They rounded a corner where human security officers were setting up a defensive perimeter. "Sergeant," one of them called out, a woman Jake recognized as Sergeant Shen. "Thermal scans show at least 6 hostiles, all Zalarian." Zara didn't slow down. "Lethal force authorized only as last resort. I want them alive for questioning." The group moved through the connecting tunnel toward Sector 5. Jake's heart hammered against his ribs, but his training kept his hand steady. The door to hydroponics had been blown open, smoke still curling from the edges. Zara signaled for silence, then gestured for the team to split. Jake stayed with her as they entered through the main entrance. Inside, the massive greenhouse stretched before them, rows of earth and Zalarian crops growing under artificial sunlight. Somewhere among the plants, the intruders were hiding. A plasma bolt screamed past Jake's head, so close he felt the heat, he dove behind a planter box. Zara rolled in the opposite direction with fluid grace. 2 o'clock, she called out. Jake spotted movement, a purple figure darting between the cornstalks. He fired a warning shot that splintered a support beam. "Surrender now," Zara commanded in Zalarian, then repeated in English for the human officers. "You are surrounded." The response was another volley of plasma fire. Zara cursed in her native language, something that sounded like hissing and clicking. Then she moved. Jake had never seen anyone fight like her. She flowed between cover points like water, firing with precision that would have impressed his drill sergeants. When one attacker tried to flank her position, she anticipated it, spinning to deliver a kick that sent him crashing into an irrigation unit. Jake provided covering fire, dropping another hostile with a shot to the shoulder. "Behind you!" Zara shouted. Jake spun. An attacker had emerged from the wheat section, weapon raised. Time seemed to slow. Jake saw the plasma chamber glowing, saw the barrel aiming directly at Zara's exposed back. He didn't think. He threw himself forward, slamming into Zara and taking them both to the ground. The plasma bolt seared through the space where she'd been standing, superheating the air. They hit the dirt hard, Jake on top of her, his body instinctively shielding hers. For a heartbeat, they were frozen. Her eyes were wide, staring up at him, her chest rising and falling rapidly beneath his. Then training kicked back in. Zara shoved him sideways as another shot came. They rolled together, ending up behind a large water tank. "You threw yourself in front of a plasma weapon?" Zara hissed, but her hand was gripping his arm tightly. "Yeah, well, you're supposed to be important to the Alliance," Jake shot back. "You could have died." "So could you." Something passed between them in that moment, something unspoken but profound. Sergeant Shen's voice crackled over the comm. "Commander, we have 3 hostiles contained in the northwest quadrant." "Copy," Zara replied, her eye still on Jake, moving to intercept the others. They advanced together now, moving in sync without needing to communicate. When Jake went left, Zara covered right. When she pushed forward, he protected her flank. It was like they'd trained together for years instead of minutes. The remaining attackers were cornered in the communications section. One of them, clearly the leader, stood defiant, even with weapons aimed at him from all sides. He was tall for a Zalarian, with ritual scars marking his face. His eyes blazed with fanatic intensity. "Commander Zara," he spat her name like poison. "The great traitor who spreads her legs for human filth." Zara's expression didn't change, but Jake felt fury ignite in his chest. "Watch your mouth," Jake growled. The leader laughed. "The human speaks. Tell me, does she purr for you like a tame pet? Does she forget her people while serving yours?" "I serve the Alliance," Zara said coldly, "something you clearly do not understand." "I understand betrayal," the leader snarled. "You bond with this creature. You legitimize the corruption of our blood. You make us weak." Zara stepped forward, her weapon never wavering. "You make us weak by clinging to hatred. The war is over. We are building something new." "We are being absorbed," the leader countered, "and you are the bridge they will use to walk over us." "Enough," Zara snapped. "You are under arrest for terrorism, sabotage, and attempted murder. Sergeant Shen, secure them all." As the prisoners were hauled away, the leader's eyes fixed on Jake with pure malice. "This is not over, human," he said quietly. "Your bond with her has made you a symbol, and symbols can be destroyed." Jake met his stare. "You can try." The prisoners were hauled away, leaving the hydroponics bay in ruins. Emergency crews were already arriving to assess the damage. Zara holstered her weapon and turned to Jake. "We need to talk." "Yeah, I think we do." They walked in silence back toward the command level. Other officers stepped aside as they passed, some staring with open curiosity. Finally, they reached her quarters instead of the office. The door sealed behind them. "You protected me," Zara said, her back to him. 3 times during that fight. You put yourself between me and danger." "That's what partners do," Jake said. "We are not partners, not yet." She paused. "But you did not fight like someone who resents being here." I ran a hand through my hair. "Look, I'm still processing all of this. The bond, the politics, everything. But those bastards were trying to kill people, including you. So, yeah, I did my job." "It was more than duty," Zara said softly, moving closer. "I have fought beside many soldiers. I know the difference between obligation and instinct. You moved with me like you knew my rhythms, like you trusted me." "I guess I did," Jake admitted, surprising himself. Zara reached up, her purple hand hovering near his face but not quite touching. "This bond does not have to be a prison, Jake. It could be something real, but only if you choose it." "How much time do I have to choose?" he asked. "Less than you think. The attack today was a message. More will come, and they will target you specifically now. You are visible. You are the human who bonded with the Zalarian commander. To the extremists, you represent everything they hate." Jake absorbed that. "So what do? We convince everyone, allies and enemies alike, that this bond is unbreakable. We show unity, strength. We give them no weakness to exploit." "And how do we do that?" Zara's expression softened slightly, almost vulnerable. "You move into these quarters. We are seen together. We attend the joint council dinner tomorrow night as a bonded pair. You want to make this public. I want to make this real," Zara corrected. "Or at least make it appear real until you decide if it can be." Jake looked around the quarters, spacious, decorated with artifacts from both worlds, clearly designed for 2 occupants. "Separate sleeping areas?" he asked. "Of course," Zara said. "I am not asking for physical intimacy, not yet. I am asking for partnership, for trust." Jake met her eyes, those dark, intense eyes that held hope and determination and something else he couldn't quite name. "All right," he said finally, "let's do this."
The shared quarters. Jake stood in the middle of what was now technically his home, the duffel bag slung over his shoulder containing everything he owned that mattered. Zara moved through the space with practiced efficiency, opening doors and gesturing to different areas. "Your sleeping quarters," she said, indicating a room to the left. "Mine are there," she pointing to the right. "Shared living space, Kitchen, bathroom facilities are accessible from both rooms. Bathroom facilities? Jake raised an eyebrow. We have similar biological needs, Zara said with the faintest hint of amusement. The fixtures accommodate both species. You will find it adequate. Jake dropped his bag in his designated room. The space was larger than his previous quarters, with a wide bed, a desk, and a window overlooking the Martian landscape. Simple, but comfortable. When he returned to the living area, Zara was standing by a table where a dark fabric garment lay folded. The Joint Council dinner is in 3 hours, she said. You will need appropriate attire. Jake picked up the garment. It was clearly formal wear, but styled differently than standard military dress, a blend of human and Zolarian design elements. This isn't exactly regulation, he observed. You are no longer simply a human officer. You are bonded to a Zolarian commander. Your appearance must reflect both worlds. He held it up against himself. I'll look like I'm trying too hard. You will look like you belong at my side, Zara corrected. Trust me. Something in her tone made him glance at her. She was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Nervous, maybe. Hopeful. All right, Jake said. I'll wear it. Relief flickered across her features. Good. Change now. I need to see if alterations are necessary. Jake retreated to his room and stripped off his uniform. The new garment fit surprisingly well. Dark fabric with subtle purple threading that caught the light. Military in structure, but elegant in execution. When he emerged, Zara had changed as well. She wore a formal gown that managed to be both modest and striking. Deep purple fabric that complemented her skin, with silver accents that marked her rank. She stopped mid-movement when she saw him. Her eyes widened slightly. What? Jake asked, suddenly self-conscious. You look... She paused, searching for words. You look like you were meant to wear that. That almost sounded like a compliment. It was, Zara said, moving toward him. She reached up to adjust his collar, her fingers brushing against his throat. The line needs to be sharper here. Jake held still as she worked, acutely aware of how close she was, her scent washing over him, that strange mix of cinnamon and something electric. You are nervous, Zara observed, her hands still on his collar. Aren't you? Jake countered. Terrified, she admitted quietly. Her eyes lifted to meet his. This dinner will determine how both governments view our bond. One wrong move, one moment of visible discord, and the alliance suffers. No pressure then, Jake said with a weak smile. Zara's hands lingered on his collar for a heartbeat longer than necessary. Do not shame me tonight. Not planning to. Her fingers traced down slightly before she stepped back. Then we are ready. The walk to the grand hall felt endless. Officers from both species lined the corridors, all of them staring as Jake and Zara passed. Some looks were curious, others hostile, a few approving. A group of Zolarian officers stood near the bar. One of them, a severe-looking woman with ritual scars marking her cheeks, watched them approach with calculating eyes. Commander Zara, the woman said in accented English. How unexpected to see you with a human at such an event. Officer Crane, Zara replied smoothly. Lieutenant Morrison is my bonded. His presence is entirely appropriate. Is it? Crean's eyes raked over Jake. He seems quite young to have bonded with someone of your status. Age is irrelevant, Zara said, her voice cooling. What matters is compatibility and commitment. Commitment, Crean repeated. Yes, I suppose that matters. She turned to Jake directly. Tell me, Lieutenant, what do you know of Zolarian bonding customs? Jake felt the trap in the question. I know they are taken seriously, he said carefully. I know they require mutual respect and trust. And love, Crean pressed. That too, Jake said, holding her gaze. How convenient that you suddenly love a woman you barely know. Zara stiffened beside him, but Jake spoke before she could. I know she is brave, he said. I know she fights with honor. I know she puts the alliance above personal comfort. I know she took a chance on a promise I made as a boy and built herself into someone extraordinary because of it. He paused. That is not nothing, Officer Crean. Silence fell over their small circle. Crean's expression shifted. something like surprise crossing her features. "Interesting," she said finally, then walked away. Zara's grip on his arm tightened briefly. "That was well said." "I meant it," Jake realized as he spoke. Before Zara could respond, a human officer approached, Captain Davis, Jake's former commanding officer. "Morrison," Davis said, his tone neutral. "Quite the career change you have made." "Sir," Jake acknowledged. "Is this arrangement voluntary?" Davis asked bluntly. Zara's spine straightened, but Jake answered, "It's complicated, sir, but I am here by choice." Davis studied him for a long moment. "See that it stays that way." Then he nodded to Zara. "Commander, treat him well. He is one of my best." "I intend to," Zara replied. The dinner itself was formal and carefully orchestrated. Speeches were made about unity and cooperation, platitudes about the future. Jake and Zara sat at a mid-level table, visible but not prominent. Throughout the meal, Jake noticed how Zara subtly monitored the room, her eyes constantly scanning for threats or problems. She barely touched her food. "You need to eat," Jake said quietly. "I need to be alert." "You need to do both," Jake insisted. He speared a piece of vegetable from his plate and held it toward her. "Come on, you're the one who said we need to look unified." Zara blinked at him, then slowly leaned forward and took the offered food from his fork. The gesture was intimate, deliberate. Several people noticed. Jake could feel the attention shift toward them. "See?" Jake said. "Not so hard." "You are infuriating," Zara murmured, but there was warmth in her voice. "You knew that already." After the speeches concluded, the formal portion ended and people began mingling again. Jake excused himself to get drinks. When he returned, he found a Zalarian officer standing too close to Zara, his posture aggressive. "Disrespect to our entire people," the officer was saying. "Bonding with a human diminishes your standing, your honor." "My honor is mine to define," Zara cut him off coldly. Jake handed her a glass and positioned himself at her side. "Problem?" The officer sneered. "The human speaks. The human is right here and listening, and he would appreciate you backing up. You have no authority to—" "You have every authority," Zara interrupted. "As my bonded, his word carries my backing. Now leave, Officer Thrawn, before I report your harassment to your superiors." Thrawn glared at them both before stalking away. Zara exhaled slowly. "This is going to be a very long evening." "We're halfway through," Jake said. "We can make it." She looked at him, really looked at him. "Why are you handling this so well?" "Because watching you handle it is impressive as hell, and because someone has to have your back." Zara's expression softened. Something vulnerable flickered in her eyes. "Thank you," she said quietly. They stayed until the dinner officially concluded. By the time they returned to their quarters, exhaustion had settled into Jake's bones. Zara sealed the door behind them and immediately reached up to unfasten the complex closure at her neck. "That was a success. We presented well together." "Is that what you call being insulted 4 times separately?" Jake asked, shrugging out of his formal jacket. "Only 4. Zara managed a tired smile. "I counted 6. Jake laughed despite himself. "How do you do this all the time?" "Practice," Zara said. She moved toward her room, then paused at the doorway. "Jake." "Yeah?" "What you said to Officer Crean about knowing who I am." She turned to face him. "Did you mean that?" Jake met her eyes. "Every word." Zara nodded slowly. "Then perhaps this bond has a chance after all." She disappeared into her room, leaving Jake standing in the shared space, his heart beating strangely fast.
Sabotage and trust. Morning alarms shattered the quiet at 0500 hours. Jake jolted awake to red emergency lights flooding his room. "All personnel, emergency in Sector 8, the intercom blared. Water filtration system critical failure." Jake was dressed and out his door in 90 seconds. Zara emerged simultaneously, already in full uniform. "That system does not fail randomly," she said, moving fast. "Someone sabotaged it." They ran through corridors filling with personnel. Sector 8 housed the colony's primary water reclamation plant. Lose that, and Mars Colony 7 had maybe 3 days before rationing became life-threatening. The plant's entrance showed signs of forced entry. Zara pulled her weapon. Jake did the same. Inside, steam hissed from ruptured pipes. Emergency lighting cast everything in hellish red. "Spread out," Zara commanded the security team that had followed them. "Check all access points." She and Jake moved deeper into the maze of machinery. The damage was extensive, too extensive to be accidental. There, Jake spotted it first. A compact explosive device attached to the main filtration manifold. The timer read 90 seconds. "Everyone out," Zara shouted, but she did not move away. Instead, she knelt beside the device, pulling tools from her belt. "Zara, what are you doing?" Jake demanded. "What needs to be done," she said, hands already working on the device's casing. "This is Zaladian military grade. I can disarm it." 70 seconds. "Not in 70 seconds, you cannot." "Then I suggest you leave." Zara's hands never stopped moving. 60 seconds. Jake stayed. "Tell me what to do." "Hold this wire steady," Zara ordered. "Do not let it touch the housing." Jake gripped the wire she indicated, his hands rock steady despite his racing pulse. 45 seconds. "There are 3 cores," Zara muttered, more to herself than him. "Disable the wrong one and it detonates immediately." 30 seconds. "Which one?" Jake asked. "I am deciding," Zara said tensely. 20 seconds. Her fingers moved to the left core, hesitated, then shifted right. 15 seconds. She pulled a tool Jake did not recognize and made a precise cut. 10 seconds. Nothing happened. 5 seconds. Zara twisted something internal. The timer stopped at 3 seconds. The device went dark. Jake released a breath he had not realized he was holding. Holy hell. Zara sat back on her heels. "That was closer than I prefer." "You think?" Jake's voice came out higher than intended. She looked at him. "You stayed." "Of course I stayed." "You could have died." "So could you," Jake said. "We have had this conversation before." Zara stood, her expression unreadable. Then suddenly she grabbed his uniform front and pulled him close, her forehead pressed against his, a Zalarian gesture of deep gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. Jake's hands came up automatically, steadying her. "Partners," he said simply. She pulled back slightly, her dark eyes searching his face. "Yes," she agreed. "Partners." Footsteps echoed from the entrance. They broke apart as Officer Draven appeared, flanked by 2 other Zalarians. Draven smiled coldly. "Commander, Lieutenant, how fortunate you survived." Zara's weapon was up instantly. "You?" "Me," Draven confirmed. "Did you enjoy my surprise?" "You sabotaged the water system," Jake said, pieces clicking together. "You wanted us to find it. You wanted us trapped down here." "Very perceptive for a human." Draven circled them slowly. "The device was meant to kill you both, 2 symbols of this disgusting alliance, gone in one moment." "Your plan failed," Zara said. "This plan did," Draven agreed. "But there will be others. Your bond makes you targets, Commander. Every extremist on both sides wants you dead." "Then they will have to try harder," Jake said. Draven lunged. The attack came fast and brutal. He slammed into Jake with augmented strength that sent them both crashing into a support beam. Pain exploded across Jake's ribs. He blocked Draven's second strike, barely, and managed the counterpunch that connected with the Zalarian's jaw. Draven staggered but laughed. "You hit like a child." The next blow caught Jake in the stomach, driving the air from his lungs. He went down hard. Zara was there instantly. She drove her elbow into Draven's throat with precise force. He choked and stumbled back. "You will not touch him again," Zara snarled. Draven recovered, pulling a blade from his belt. "Then I will kill you both." He slashed at Zara. She dodged, but the blade caught her shoulder. Purple blood welled. Jake saw red. He tackled Draven from the side. They went down together in a tangle of limbs. Jake got his hands around the knife wrist and slammed it repeatedly against the floor until Draven lost his grip. Security finally arrived, weapons trained. "Freeze!" Draven was hauled away, still spitting curses about human contamination and traitorous commanders. Zara swayed on her feet. Jake caught her. "You are bleeding." "It is shallow," she said, but her voice was tight with pain. "Hospital now," Jake insisted. He got an arm around her waist, supporting her weight. In the medical bay, a human doctor cleaned and sealed Zara's wound while Jake paced. "Lieutenant, you are making me nervous," the doctor said. "Sorry." Jake stopped pacing, moved to Zara's side instead. "Is she all right?" "She will be fine," the doctor assured him. "The wound was clean, no major damage." Zara watched Jake with an expression he was starting to recognize, something between exasperation and fondness. When they were finally alone, she spoke. "You fought for me. You got stabbed protecting me. We are even then." "I guess we are," Jake said. Then, surprising himself, he reached out and took her hand, her purple fingers laced with his. "Jake," Zara said softly. "Yeah, I think—" She paused. "I think this bond is becoming real." Jake squeezed her hand gently. "Yeah," he agreed. "I think it is." The choice. The observation deck was empty at this hour. Jake stood at the wide window watching Earth hang in the black sky like a blue jewel. He had been standing there for 20 minutes when Zara found him. "You are difficult to locate when you wish to be," she said, joining him at the window. "Needed to think," Jake replied. 3 days had passed since Draven's arrest. The colony had settled into uneasy normalcy, but intelligence reports suggested more attacks were being planned by extremist cells on both sides. "The council met today," Zara said quietly. "They discussed our bond." Jake tensed. "And?" "They offered me a choice," Zara said, her voice carefully neutral. "I can dissolve the bond, no political consequences. They will frame it as a mutual decision made for the good of both our careers." "That's what you wanted, right? A way out that doesn't hurt the alliance?" "It is what I thought I wanted," Zara admitted. "Before I knew you, before we fought together, before you stayed with me while I disarmed a bomb that could have killed us both." "Jake, let me finish," she said. "If I dissolve this bond, I lose my command posting. The council will see it as failure. I will be reassigned to some distant outpost where my choices cannot embarrass them." She paused. "But you would be free." Jake looked at her, really looked at her, the fierce Zalarian commander who had built her life around a promise, the woman who fought with grace and precision, who made him want to be better, who had somehow become essential to him in just a few days. "What do you want?" he asked. "I want—" She started, then stopped. "I want you to choose freely, without political pressure, without obligation to a childhood promise." Her eyes met his. "I want to know if you could ever truly want this bond, want me." Jake was quiet for a long moment. "That day at the Peace Summit, when I found you crying behind the exhibition hall, do you know what I actually thought?" Zara shook her head. "I thought you were the bravest person I had ever met. You had just fallen, been laughed at by a dozen other kids, and you were sitting there trying so hard not to cry. But you were crying because you were angry at yourself for falling." "I don't remember that part," Zara said softly. "I remember it. I remember thinking that you were going to grow up to be someone incredible, someone fierce and strong and unstoppable." He stepped closer. "I was right." Zara's breath caught. "These past few days, fighting with you, living with you, watching you handle impossible situations with grace, it hasn't felt like obligation, Zara. It's felt like discovering something I didn't know I was missing." "Jake, let me finish," she said. "This bond capable of being dissolved?" "Yes," Zara confirmed. "It can be undone with the appropriate ritual." "You are considering it?" he asked. "I am considering what my real desires are, and how they have changed now that I know you." "What do you want?" he asked. "I choose you," Zara said. "Even if there is now a way out that doesn't hurt the alliance, I still choose you." Jake was quiet for a long moment. "That day at the Peace Summit, when I found you crying behind the exhibition hall, do you know what I actually thought?" Zara shook her head. "I thought you were the bravest person I'd ever met. You had just fallen, been laughed at by a dozen other kids, and you were sitting there trying so hard not to cry.
but you were crying because you were angry at yourself for falling." "I don't remember that part," Zara said softly. "I remember it. I remember thinking that you were going to grow up to be someone incredible, someone fierce and strong and